Good morning, fourth grade. Today yours is a review lesson, lesson 86. So I encourage you to follow along just in case our newer skills get confusing. That way you can check yourself with what my work is, just to make sure that you're doing it right. I don't want us to form bad habits accidentally, so follow along. I'll read the story problems. I might not help you very much on them, but at least you will have them read for you. A. Leo helped his mom clean the basement from 1:45 p.m. until 3:30 p.m. How many hours and minutes did Leo help his mom? So what I would suggest that you do is think about either setting a clock, and so 1:45, that's at the 9, and then starting with the hours. So if I go from 1:45, one whole hour around, from 1:45 until 2:45, that's 1 hour. Now if I keep going, one more hour, I would get 3:45, and that is too much. So here is 1 hour. Now on your clock, or in your clock in your mind, or if you're looking at a clock, now you are at 2:45, okay? So now what you need to do is count from 2:45 until you get to 3:30. So as soon as we go 15 more minutes, we're going to get to 3 o'clock. So we know that we're really close at 2:45. We're really close to 3. So here's my 10, here's my 11, here's my 12, here's my 1, here's my 2, here's my, 3 should be like this, 4, 5, and then 6. So that's my 30. So now you just skip count by 5. So you're at 1 hour and then you count how many minutes that would be. B, Dad ordered 1 yard and 2 feet of electrical cable. How many inches of electrical cable did he purchase? So I see 1 yard and 2 feet, and yet the answer needs to be in inches. So I would write out exactly what I see, and I'll change colors. I see 1 yard, and when I see the word and, it means plus, because it's 1 yard plus 2 feet equals, then it says blank inches. We don't know that. But now this is set up perfectly for a conversion equation. So if I'm converting it, does this one match inches? Nope. So I need to make it say inches. So I'm going to draw my line that says inches plus, does this one say inches? Nope. So there's another box. I'm going to make it say inches though, equals blank inches. So now when I'm solving this, I'm going to be solving for the green line because those are all in inches. So I would go through and I would do my steps. Okay, so yards to inches. Yards is bigger, it's going bigger to smaller. There is 36 inches in a yard. So that means I'm going to do 36 times 1, which luckily for us is just 36 inches. Okay, so I already have a 36 plus, and then I just figure out how many inches 2 feet is. So maybe you already know that in your mind, but you'd fill that in right there to fill that in right there, and then that would give you your total number. Now you have to solve that first before you move on to the second part, because it says if the cable costs 43 cents per inch, that's per inch, how much did Dad pay? So you're going to need this number of inches to know how much per inch it is. When it says per inch, it means 43 cents, 43 cents, 43 cents for at least 36 times because we have 36 inches in a yard. Okay, and finally C, Jacksonville Christian School bought 43 dozen donuts for a fundraiser. If they sold 472 donuts, how many were left? So this is a two-step story problem. They bought 43 dozen. So how many donuts is that? Gotta figure out how many donuts that is. And then after you know how much they start with, then they sold 472 donuts. How many were left? So first thing you have to figure out is 43 dozen equals how many donuts? Okay. All right, then you're back to your factor pairs. Factors, greatest common factor. So unlike the last lesson, this is still just two numbers. But notice this line right here. That's like saying, let me do it this way. Oops. That's like saying it's 15 21s or 1836. They are a fraction. That's why there's like this big green line separating them, because the 15 and 21, you're trying to find the common factors of those two, and you're trying to find the greatest common factor of 18 and 36. So keep doing that. I'll start one with you. I'll start 15. So I like to do the factors first because I know where I'm going to end. I start with 1 and I start with 15. So that means 1 times 15. Okay, then if I skip count by 2, since 5 is not an even number, I know 2 will not work. But 3s, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Well, 3 works with 5. When I say 4, I know it's not going to work because 4 times 4 is 16, and that's one number before 15, so there's no way I could have another group of 4. And then I already got to 5. So that's actually all of my factors. Okay, for 21, well, I'm going to start with 1 and 21. And then I'm going to go to 2, but since 21 is an odd number, 2 doesn't work. So now I'm going to try 3. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. That was 3 and 7. So 3 times 7. Okay, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Well, I'm 1 off, so it's not 20, it's not 4. It's not going to be 5s because it's not a 5 or a 0. And 6 wouldn't have a partner because 6 times 6 is not 21. It'd be 6, 12, 18, then 24. So those are my factors. Now I'm going to look for which one is a common factor. So I see 1 and 1. I see 3 and 3. Now in the top row I see 5, but I don't see that on the bottom. And I see 15, and I don't see that on the bottom. So my factors are 1 and 3, and the greatest one of those is 3. So the purpose of doing that, when we find the greatest common factor, is now I could reduce 15 21s, and I could divide both of them by 3. Now, we don't need to right now, but I'm showing you that we could, and I know this is going backwards, but 15 divided by 3 is 5, and 21 divided by 3 is 7. So 15 21st is the exact same fraction as 5 7ths. That's the purpose of learning what your greatest common factor is, or your GCF. All right, so now we're reducing to the lowest terms. I'm sad that I was not here to do this lesson with you because just because I like this lesson, but of reducing fractions. But I also feel like some of us need to organize our thoughts, otherwise it's more confusing. And so I'm going to show you how I do it. When we reduce to the lowest terms, it means we want to find something that both numbers can be divided by. That's why we do the greatest common factor. Well, to be honest, I don't think anybody wants to do all the factors for 16 and all the factors for 24. So what I do is take your top number and write the factors out for 16. So 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 3 does not because it's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, but 4 and 4. Then I would go 5, nope, 6, nope, 7, nope, and I'm back to 8. So 4 and 4. So of these, I start with the biggest number first. So I have 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. Always start with the biggest number. Can 24 be divided by 16? That means if I skip count by 16s, will I say 24? Well, if you know what 16 plus 16 is, or 16 times 2, it's 32. So we would skip over 24. So that means I need to cross out 16 because I cannot divide. I can divide the top number by it, but I cannot divide 24 by 16. Then I go to 8. When I skip count by 8s, do I say 24? 8, 16, 24, 32. I do. So that's all I need to know, because we always want to use our greatest common factor, our biggest number. So since 8 worked, then that tells me that's what I'm going to divide both of these numbers by. So I'm going to do 16. Oh no, I didn't mean to erase that. Maybe I'll erase it anyway, and I'll just make it so I can highlight it anyway. So we had 4, 8, and we had 16. So we said 16 didn't work, but 8 did work. Okay, so I'm going to divide both these numbers by 8. So 16 divided by 8 is what? 2. And then 24 divided by 8 is what? 3. So my new fraction, 16 24ths, can also become 2/3. All right, would like to do the next one again with you. So I always use the top number first because it's the smallest number and you have the fewer factors. And remember, it has to work for both of them. And so like if I go back to this one down here, they actually both had 4 factors, but the smaller number is obviously going to have fewer factors because it's smaller. And so then I have less to go by to see if they match. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 and 12, 2 and 6, because 6 plus 2 times 2 is 12, and then 3 and 4. Okay, now I start with 12. When I skip count by 12s, do I say 48? Okay, if you're not sure how to skip count by 12s, then just write 12 plus 12, which we know is 24, plus 12 more. Well, there's 6 and 3. Oops, plus 12 more. Well, there's an 8 and there's a 4. Oh man, I do say 48. So on the very first one, I'm going to use 12. I don't have to worry about the rest of those numbers then. Okay, so I'm going to do 12 divided by 12, which is going to give me 1. And then 48 divided by 12, because I have to do the same thing on the top and on the bottom. 48 divided by 12, well, that was 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully you already knew that. So, therefore, 1/4 is the same thing as 12/48. Okay, so writing the numbers on the top is just my trick to help you make sure that you're using the biggest one. Now, on 12/48, I want to pretend that I didn't do that. I should have done this first. And I want to show you what it means by getting to the lowest term. So 48 is a pretty big number and 12 is a pretty big number. So I'm going to start that again. I'm going to do it over here off to the side. So I could have said, oh, I don't know, but I do know that both of these divide by 2. Like, that's pretty easy. I know half. Well, half of 12 is 6, and half of 48 is 24. But then I look at that, and I know that both of these numbers are even numbers, which means if it's an even number, it's divisible by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2 again. 2 is the easiest by far because you just take the number and make it in half. But I'm already having to divide again. Okay, 6 divided by 2 is 3. And 24 divided by 2 is 12. Well, guess what? I can't divide by 2 anymore. But I do know that 3, when I skip count by 3s, I say 12, which means I need to divide this by 3 this time. Finally, 3 divided by 3 is 1. Oh, I finally am getting close because 1 is the smallest I can possibly get. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I now finally got to 1/4 from 12/48. But I had to do divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 3. That was not my fastest way to get to the lowest term, and it has to be the lowest term. So that's why it's best to find your factors and then use the biggest factor, the biggest common factor. So that's why I had to figure out if, when I skip count by 12, if I could say 48, or if 48 is divisible by 12. That's what that means. All right, write the sum or difference and then reduce the fraction if necessary. Okay, so same thing as what we just did up above, but we have 3 plus 5, which is 8, plus 1 more is 9. 9/12. And then you also need to solve the whole number side. So 8 plus 5 I know is 13. I'm going to carry my 1. I have 6, 8, 10. So I have 103 and 9/12. But I happen to know that 9 and 12 both can be divisible by 3. Because I remember when I skip count by 3, I say both of them. So I'm going to divide both of these by 3. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. So my new number is actually 103 and 3/4. And then please circle your final answer. That way I know if you reduced it. Because if I circled this one, it's not the lowest term. So please circle what you were telling me is your lowest term. Okay, number 5, you're just marking the circle next to each improper fraction. And then change each improper fraction to a mixed or a whole number. So this is what you learned from your last lesson. So you take the top number. The top number, it goes in the box. So 11, and then I say divided by 7. Okay, so how many times does 7 go into 11? 1 time. 7 times 1 is 7. 11, take away 7, is 4, which means I have 1 4/7. And then same thing, please circle that answer so I know that that's the one that you want it to be. Okay? All right, good luck with this. Please make sure that you're understanding how to reduce fractions. This is a trickier skill. And always remember to reduce to the lowest term. Good luck, and as always, if you have any questions, please raise your hand.